Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland. David Jones from the left is unable to be with us tonight because David is under the weather and we hope he feels better. But he's going to miss a great show. This week on Red, White, and Blue, it's the state of Harris County with three distinguished guests. Harris County Commissioner Precinct 4 Jack Cagle, our newest commissioner. Harris County Judge Ed Emmett, who is a Red, White, and Blue regular, and we want to welcome him back. And finally, Harris County Clerk Stan Stanart. Welcome to all three of you.
Good to be here.
And if it's okay with the other two on the outside, we're going to talk to the big boss first, the county judge. Judge Emmett, you gave a State of the County address last week, and I want you to be able to share with our viewers, which I think the audience will be a little bigger than showed up for your speech, probably not by much, but who knows.
Yep, probably.
Tell us, what's the state of Harris County today?
Well, you know, it was interesting. This was my fifth State of the County address.
5 already.
I know. It's amazing. And each year, it seems like there was something to talk about. We had a hurricane or we had this or that. But this year, it dawned on me that we really needed to go back and talk about what is the county. And so the whole theme was Harris County is a county of substance. If you ask, we're doing well financially, particularly compared to other governmental entities, not only local but around the state and the nation. But I went through the entire, not the entire, but a long list of projects that the county's involved in that people don't think about. And it really, the focus was simply this. The county we enjoy today is the result of decisions made and actions taken years ago. And the decisions we make, all of us in county government today, are going to affect generations yet unborn. And if you just start thinking about it on flood control, the Brays Bayou Project, the Sims Bayou Project, the Hunting Bayou Project, all the parks that are related to county government, the transportation infrastructure. You know, nobody likes to pay tolls, but if we didn't have our toll road system in Harris County, congestion would be a whole lot worse.
We should call Harris County Gridlock County.
And it would be much, much worse. And so I went through what's already here, and then we also started talking about, well, what's coming up? And if you look at that, out in Commissioner Cagle's area, for example, the improvements of 249, the 290, the Hempstead corridor, there are things afoot now to not only improve 288, would not be a county project, that may go back to the state, and then we improve streets like Scott and Cullen, Alameda, and access to the Texas Medical Center.
And the University of Houston.
And the University of Houston. And it's an impressive list, and a lot of times when people think of county, they think, well, it doesn't really relate to us, but it does. We've had a lot of fun with the drainage issue lately. If the county flood control district had not made all those improvements to the bayous, there wouldn't be any place to put the water the city of Houston's collecting anyway. So we have to remind people the library system that people utilize.
In fact, the city wants to hand off the library system of the city, I've read, to the county if they could.
Well, there are a lot of combinations already, and again, in fact, in Commissioner Cagle's precinct, there's already a joint city-county library out in Kingwood. So it was just good to go through that because too frequently county government only comes up in times of scandal. And that's unfair to all the people who work in Harris County. The 15 or 16,000 employees that go to work every day and do a great job and do these things for residents of the entire county, and yet they don't make the news. These major projects don't make the news. What makes the news is if somebody's caught in a scandal. So we have to get a handle on ethics so that doesn't occur anymore. But in the meantime, I do want to remind the viewers of this show and everybody else just all the great projects that are going on. People turn on their radio in the morning and they hear traffic reports from Transtar. That's the county. That's a joint operation of TxDOT, Harris County, City of Houston, and Metro.
Located in Precinct 4.
Also located in Precinct 4. So these are all the things that I talked about.
So is it fair to say, Judge, that at least under your leadership, the county commissioners are delivering good government for a fair price to the citizens?
Well, not only under my leadership. That's why I wanted to emphasize a lot of the things that are in place today were done by previous serving county commissioners, county judges. And if we do our job right, then years from now, somebody will stand on that same stage, and maybe they'll invoke our names and say, well, they did this back in 2012, 13, 14, and it was the right thing to do.
Very good. Commissioner Cagle, you've been on the job for 6 months?
No, 4.5 months.
It seems time flies when you're having fun. You came from the courts. You were a judge,
County
like
Civil Court of
a
Law
real
member.
judge, and Judge Emmett is, of course, an executive judge.
I
think
wore
that's
the
fair to
robes.
say. He doesn't wear a robe. You could give him one of your robes, but I want to hear your perspective coming onto the commissioner's court from your former position with the county. What have you found?
As a judge, my job was to look back into time, things that already occurred, and we were trying to make them go right again. And I loved going to work. Every day I got to be in the place and work among some of the greatest people that you could possibly imagine. And it's hard to imagine a job that I would love more than being a judge, but I found it being the County Commissioner Precinct 4. One of the things that people don't realize is the scope of the relationship that county government has. We all know that the city of Houston is the 4th largest city in the country. What a lot of folks don't realize is that unincorporated Harris County, if it was a city, would be the 5th largest city in the country. So in essence, you have the 4th largest city in the country sitting on top of or being surrounded by the 5th largest city in the nation. And Precinct 4 has almost 50% of that unincorporated portion. And so I have the privilege of representing a number of fine folks that are within the city of Houston or that are in one of our other cities, such as Tomball or Humble in Jersey Village. But the bulk of the citizens that I represent day in and day out, 1.2 million as of today, and then tomorrow after redistricting takes in its kick, whenever that finally occurs, will be a million, roughly a million. The bulk of them are folks that are in unincorporated Harris County, and we are, as Commissioners Court, the 5 of us, the individuals that make the decisions that affect their lives directly.
So in essence, I guess when you get into unincorporated areas, this Harris County functions as the county and a city would function in terms of services and the like.
Exactly.
Very good. I know one of the priorities you've had, Judge Cagle, is transportation. I guess there is and Judge Emmett has referred to a number of the projects that y'all are working on as a court in that northwestern corridor. But there's a lot of growth out there and a lot of congestion. And I guess, are we getting a lot of help from the state, or is this pretty much falling on the county to deal with this?
We're getting cross contribution. and the judge did a great job of explaining what all is going on. We've got the Grand Parkway that's coming through. Primacy of that is being held by the state of Texas. And so they are pushing that project, and we are gently nudging the state to even move along at a faster pace. Fairly said, Judge?
Fairly said. We've got a number of projects, and just this last week, as a matter of fact, there have been a lot of, I wouldn't call them negotiations, I'd call them conversations, to make sure that 290 Hempstead Corridor moves forward, 249 moves forward, 288 moves forward, and those other projects in Commissioner Lee's precinct that I'd mentioned, Alameda, the tie-in to the Texas Medical Center. County can't do all those. State can't do all those. We can all contribute, though. And so I think what you're going to see in the very near future is a parceling out of these projects. And it used to be we'd say, well, which one are we going to do first? Which one? I think we're going to be able to do them all, because we're just going to say, okay, you do this, we do that. We get the Congress involved, if and when they ever pass a surface transportation bill, and we say these are our priorities, and we move forward. And I think those decisions will be made.
Let's talk about one project in particular, and that's 249 for just a moment. That's a wonderful project because we are actually cooperating with Montgomery County. So we are actually building relationships with our neighbors to where we are growing together. And those who travel 249, they sit in what is in essence the feeder lanes to the future toll road. And whereas 5 years ago, folks are saying, I don't want you to build a toll road, and one wasn't built. And now those folks that are sitting there saying, you know, I might not want to pay the $2 to ride on the toll road, but if that toll road was built, all those people that are clogging up my traffic on the free feeder lanes will be on that toll road, and I can move faster.
And in fact, while we're talking about the toll roads, either of you can answer, and then we'll get to Stan. Are the toll roads successful, I guess, financially for the county?
The toll roads are very successful. And of course, the argument that comes up, periodically somebody says, well, they were supposed to be free when they were paid off. That was never the case because it's a toll road system. And the plan, and it way predates me and certainly predates Commissioner Cagle or Stan. The idea was you generate the revenue and then you go build the next road that needs to be built. And fortunately, that's why we're so far ahead in Harris County of the other major urban areas of the state, because we have been able to do that. Plus, what people don't realize is that a lot of the other projects that are done in the county are actually paid for by the toll roads, because the connector roads to the toll roads need to be improved and the tolls are used for that. So the money stays here. Unlike a lot of toll projects where the money may go flying off somewhere else, it stays here and improves mobility.
And in fact, I guess it's probably fair to say that if we didn't have the toll roads, which in essence are voluntary taxes,
Right.
you could call it that, then we'd have mandatory taxes to pay for some of the things that the county has to pay for.
Or you would have gridlock.
Right, other choice. Okay, Stan, you're not on the commissioner's court. You may want to be. I don't know.
I'm the clerk.
But you're the county clerk.
Yes.
What does the county clerk do briefly?
I record the major events of your life. That's everything from your birth certificates to your death certificates. I am the clerk for Commissioner's Court, for other courts, and then all your deeds, mortgages, any real property records, DBAs. It just goes on. And I also run the elections.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that, but we'll get into that later. First I know you brought with us something you're really proud of.
Yes.
Your office has put together a new marriage license for people who get married in Harris County.
That is correct. A new marriage license, and also for those already married, a certification of marriage so that it's suitable for framing for that dear Valentine's Day, which just passed, and then also special time.
So I got married in Harris County. I guess
right.
I could come back.
You can come
You
back.
have records from 38 years ago
If
when
you
I got
were
married.
Yes, if it was in Harris County, we have your records, and you can
I could get
for $25.
Oh, okay.
Which all goes into the general fund. Then you can get yourself a certification of marriage.
Okay. So on the screen we showed the new one.
Yes.
So what was the major changes you made, and why did you do it?
Well, the old one, it was fairly plain, and so we retired it. Made it very ornament, printed out on parchment type paper. It's something that someone can actually treasure and keep, and they feel like they want to keep it. And of course, if they want to frame it, it is suitable for framing.
Okay, very good. And the old one was just
Plain
old document. Very good. And so,
Yes.
so the county, you have to pay $25. If I was to get married again, I'm not.
$72.
$72.
And that because a lot of that money goes to the state.
Okay.
It goes
But
lots of
if
places.
you wanted to replace or get a new one, okay.
To get a certification is $25.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, while we're with you, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. Are we ever going to have elections this year?
One of these
I
days.
know there's one person sitting here that is very interested if that'll ever occur.
Well, it looks like May 29th is the most likely day today, okay? I've spent 3 times, I've gone to San Antonio. I have been on the stand in front of the 3 federal judges, telling what, fighting for Harris County, fighting for an election, number one, as soon as possible, and telling them what logistically we can do to pull off an election.
So, I understand you need 75 days from when you get a firm date to be ready to have an election. Is that right?
Well, it depends on the county. Some say less, some say more. In Harris County, we think outside the box. We think of ways of how we can do things in parallel. An example being, we have, as district, the maps come out, it will split precincts. Those have to be totally recoded into computers. But we can handle, because the numbers of the military ballots, those affected precincts will be small, maybe 500. We'll actually hand code those, and we'll send them the ballots while we're
So you'll get that out early.
Yeah, we're trying to do things in parallel as the maps are being worked.
Okay, so if we have an election May 29th, when would the runoff be?
That could be, no date is set, but that could be end of July. That could be August.
Okay, and if we slide past May and we go to June, are we going to have a primary before the general election, or are we just going to switch to the Louisiana system and everybody runs in the same primary?
I hope not. I really hope not, because we need to have our choices.
Stan is on record, I heard somewhere, that he would guarantee that we would still have our November election even if our primary is held in December.
It would be interesting.
Exactly.
We can always go back to the conventions and we just pick our nominees by each party.
Well, it's important to note, some of us here are old enough to remember when the primaries were in May. The only reason primaries ever moved earlier in the year was for the presidential race.
That's right. Good
So
point.
there's nothing, sacred about a March primary or April. It's May. A lot of states that have their early presidential primary still have their regular party primaries in August even.
Good point.
The
I
northern
did want
states.
to ask, and I think we have about 10 minutes left. I want to talk about what are the top three things that the county spends money on?
Criminal justice, transportation, and third
Hospital
one.
district.
Well, that's not our direct.
Well.
The hospital district has a separate board of managers.
But
and we do need to talk about. That's a good point to talk about.
I wanted to talk about that because I want to talk about the hospital district, the county's relationship, and how Obamacare factors in.
And I would think probably the flood control district would be
And the port.
Well, but again, see, the port revenue, a lot of that comes from fees from people using the port, and the port's not the county, and the hospital district's not the county. In fact, the hospital district budget is roughly the same size as the county budget.
But you say it's not the county. Don't the commissioners appoint the entire board?
That's correct.
So they answer to you.
The
set their
commissioners
tax rate.
do, but they run the hospital district. But
Okay.
they're not funded by the county government. They're funded by their own separate tax rate.
That the commissioners set.
Correct.
So do you like that present system? Do you think they should have to answer to elected officials like the commissioners court?
No, I think the current system works pretty well because you have to remember the hospital district is there to provide indigent health care. And it's always a changing game. And right now, without getting into real details, there's something called a Section 1115 waiver going on where Texas is trying to get creative in the way we take care of indigents for health care. And that includes not only physical health, but mental health and people with substance abuse issues. So we're trying to regionalize it when I say we, the whole state. And right now, before I think it's the end of July, the Harris County Hospital District is been given the task of putting together a regional plan. Same time, University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, UTMB, is been asked to do the same thing, and that's happening all around the state. So stay tuned. The way the hospital district functions is very likely to change.
Is that going to have any economic impact on taxpayers? That's going to cost taxpayers more money, for example?
Well, it actually could save taxpayers a lot of money because Medicaid right now is, you talk about the looming elephant in the room, on the state budget, Medicaid is just beginning to dominate, and they don't know how to get it under control.
So maybe we could do like the theory behind federalism for the state and let counties experiment with different ideas and ways to do things to see what works.
Well, in fact, that is what's going on. There are two pots of money that are going to be dispensed, and one of them is specifically for innovative programs. And, for example, if Austin County, which is much smaller, obviously, than Harris County, but if they're in our region and they come up with an innovative plan for a particular program, then they can apply for their own money, and it'll just funnel through the region directly to them.
Commissioner Cagle, have you been involved in any of the city, county issues that have kind of arisen over the last few months? We have the new tax the city imposed that was trying to put on the Astrodome area.
Well, one of the things that I think is very important is that all layers of government, that we cooperate and work together. That it is not to any taxpayer's benefit if the city lays a tax on the county, because then the county has to go and find where to replace that from, nor is it good for the county to, in retaliation, start to tax the city properties that are located within the county. So if we got into that swirl of each of us taxing each other's properties, or the city saying that we need to contribute to their flood control, and then we going, okay, well, you need to contribute to our flood control, which is a much more expansive project than what the city is doing, that's a negative drain of resources and harms the taxpayers. I went to Rice, the county judge went to Rice, the current mayor went to Rice. And so sometimes, maybe
Stan?
Maybe behind.
Oklahoma State.
It's not too late.
Stan's not there, but sometimes little things like that give you an opportunity to chat. And I think that we're moving in a positive direction now to where we're all wanting to cooperate. I would much rather participate with the city in a project than have the city come to me and lay a fee or a fine or a tax, no matter what label you call on it, upon me. Because if I'm participating, then I can budget for it, I can plan for it, and I don't have to pull resources from something else that we're trying to do.
Well, by the way, while we're on that topic, the future of the Astrodome. What is it?
I knew. Once you mentioned the Astrodome, we were going to get that question.
Should we give that to Stan?
We're going to move the county clerk into the Astrodome.
Why not? We'll charge admission.
In all seriousness, the Harris County Sports and Convention Corporation is just wrapping up, hopefully, what will be the final study of what to do with the dome. And whatever they come back with will have to be presented to Commissioners Court. And my guess is there will be a few options with price tags. And we as Commissioners Court will say, okay, this is the best one. And I don't see any way to move forward without going back then to the voters and saying, if you want to keep the dome, here's the best suggestion we've got. And this is how much it's going to cost. The estimates from over a year ago, of course, were $88 million just to tear it down. You, the taxpayers.
That's more than it costs to build.
Oh, yeah. Wait, it gets worse. You, the taxpayers, owe roughly $30 million on it right now.
That's from the remodeling for the Oilers.
And that's more than it cost to build it in the first place.
Oh, my goodness.
So $30 million, $88 million. If you develop it into anything at all, you're looking at $350, $400, $450 million. But I think there are a lot of people who say it's worth keeping as the icon, even if you know that you're not going to get the money back out of it. I can tell you personally, I'd like to see it converted into something that doesn't have huge ongoing maintenance cost. A one-time thing that, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're willing to bite that bullet. But ultimately, taxpayers have to decide that.
Makes sense.
Everybody wants to keep it. Nobody wants to pay to have it refurbished, or nobody wants to pay to just keep it sitting there dormant. Right. So since you have all these nobody wants tos, we've got to figure out a creative way of meeting the needs of the populace.
Do you think that the size of Commissioners Court is sufficient for the growing, what is it, fifth largest now city for the unincorporated areas in the country?
Well,
with a small group of elected officials who run everything.
Well, you could also say, we have 5-member Commissioners Court that runs it. If it was a city with a strong mayor government, it'd just be one. So, yeah, I don't think there's any movement to change the number of commissioners at all.
And I guess the next thing I wanted to ask you about, looking at the economy, is the economy in Harris County improving? Are we ahead of the rest of the state? Are we ahead of the rest of the country? Are we leading the way in a potential recovery or not?
The short answer is yes. I think it is improving. Earlier this week, I was at a luncheon, Associated General Contractors, and they were talking about commercial building seems to be picking up. I don't know, Stan, you have filings that come into your office. What?
They're pretty flat. I mean, the new mortgages, new deeds, I think it's been pretty flat. So we're still waiting for that tick up in that arena. There could be others that could be leading first.
We have great projects. Commissioner Cagle can talk about the ExxonMobil.
We've got tremendous things occurring. ExxonMobil is coming in. The conservative estimates are that there will be 32,000 new jobs that will be generated as a consequence of them coming in.
That'll help the housing market,
That's
too.
Right.
Just south of them with Coventry will be a housing development that will rival, if not exceed, what you see in the Woodlands. And then we have over in Commissioner Raddick's precinct to the west, we've got the Bridgelands. That is a master plan development that would be within Harris County, similar to what the Woodlands are. With the Grand Parkway being in place and ExxonMobil coming in with those 32,000, and that is considered an extremely conservative estimate as to how many people with regard to the jobs. There'll be a hospital that's going in there. There's a lot of other development that will go in there to participate with that. You can have individuals throughout our entire region that will have their neighborhoods impacted in a positive way with folks that are coming in working with good jobs that will need to spend that money here, so there'll be other folks who will be impacted in a positive economic way. And then we've got our port, which you mentioned earlier, where here we are very soon talking about whether we're going to dredge down to 50 feet so we can receive the big tankers coming through the Panama Canal, and then we will be the port for the entire central part of the nation.
So it looks like the economic prospects for Harris County look pretty bright.
Well, they certainly look bright compared to anybody else. Right. But if you think about it, we are perfectly positioned to be the gateway of North America on global trade. And you add to that the other economic entities that are moving here like ExxonMobil. But one thing has to be said. We talked about 4 million people living in Harris County. Remember, 500,000 live inside Loop 610. 1.5 million live between Loop 610 and Beltway 8. The other 2 million live outside Beltway 8. And that's a lot of what the county has to deal with on a regular basis. And that's where the growth is going to be.
And that's going to be the last word, Judge. In fact, we could do a show about future growth and where we're going. Well, I want to thank all three of you for being here today. It was the most interesting discussion, and I think the viewers learned a lot about what Harris County government does, which I think is important. We invite you to visit our home online at HoustonPBS.org. Click on the local program bar, pick red, white, and blue, and read about our guests and watch the shows along with a follow-up discussion. We also want to send our condolences out to regular guest Paul Betancourt, who lost his mom this week. And finally, until next time, make sure you get informed and get active, and we hope at some point you'll get to vote. Thank you.